Hi, I'm Robbie Lawler.
What's up, Fight Family? This is your favorite MMA coach, Thiago. I was the Pitbull.
Hey, what's up, guys? I'm Pedro Munoz.
This is Mike Brown.
Guys, I am Alexei Olenik. And welcome.
And welcome.
And welcome.
And welcome.
And this is We Want Picks.
And you're watching We Want Picks.
To We Want Picks.
To We Want Picks.
To We Want Picks.
To We Want Picks. Hi, everybody from American Picks.
My name's Angelo, and welcome to We Want Picks. Jacob and I are going to break down the entire UFC Vegas 50. That's how many fights we've had since COVID really locked down the UFC. But
is that when they started counting?
That's when they started calling them UFC Vegas.
Yeah, that's when
they were just fight nights and numbered, and now they're UFC Vegas because of that, because they're all at the Apex. Anyway, we are going to break down the entire UFC Vegas fight card. We're going to give you our picks. We're going to give you our bets. And we're going to give you our fantasy plays. And if you want $50 free, we're also doing a giveaway. We are giving every single human being that goes to WeWantPicks.com/bets, signs up with any one of our 5 betting partners and makes a deposit, we're giving them $50. It's that simple. You do it all on the website. There's a form to request your money and everything. I've been paying people out left and right. So WeWantPicks.com/bets. Jump into any one of the 5 betting partners you see there, make a deposit, let us know after you do in the form, and we send you $50. And this stream is brought to you by BETU Play to Earn. BETU Play to Earn is the world's first online sports and esports betting game. Check it out now at betuearn.com. That's bet, the letter U, earn.com. And we've got a really interesting fight night here because last week, the pay-per-view, we had some massive favorites, some pretty clear-cut, who should win and how and why. This week, more than half this card are just straight-up coin flip fights, but we're going to do our best. We're going to break them down, and there's actually a lot of fun ones here. And opening up the card, we have Tafon Nchukwi taking on Azamat Murzakanov. Tafon Nchukwi is 9-3 overall. He's 4-1 in his last 5. He's coming off a decision win over Mike Slow Rodriguez, where he more than doubled Mike's strikes. And Azamat Murzakanov is 9-4 overall. He's 5-0 in his last 5. He's coming off a Contender Series knockout in August. And this is Tafon's second fight up at light heavyweight. He's a good technical striker. He has legit power in his hands. He has solid technique. His issue sometimes is volume and speed. Obviously, I mentioned he doubled Mike Slow Rodriguez's volume in that fight, but that's not a typical fight for Tafon, because when he is in a rhythm, he is absolutely in a rhythm and lets his hands go. But sometimes it's hard for him to find that rhythm, and he'll just do pop shots here and there instead of really tying things together. And he isn't just a striker. He got 3 takedowns in that fight against Rodriguez, and he had 5 full minutes of control time. Azamat Murzakanov, he's not the biggest light heavyweight in the division, but he makes up for that physical stature with legit power. He's fast. He's heavy-handed. He's a very good wrestler. He's got solid ground and pound, but his hands are so good that he doesn't even use his wrestling that often. He had a great Contender Series win in the summer, but has had a bad run of luck since then. He's had 3 different fights booked. All 3 of them have been canceled because his opponent has pulled out. And on paper, it's a really fun fight because on paper, you theoretically have 2 guys here that you expect to bang it out. But I actually think Azamat's going to go to his wrestling here. He has a wrestling background. He's a very capable wrestler. And I think he's going to go to the wrestling because Tafon is dangerous on the feet. And Tafon definitely has more high-level experience. And I do expect him to be more composed in this fight. But when the pressure is on him, he does tend to back up. He loses his volume. He slows down a bit. And I think Azamat, and he's got that just cement brick of a head, I think he's just going to come forward, back Tafon up, go to his wrestling. And we haven't really seen that in the UFC yet, but he does have it. I see him coming forward, throwing big, heavy bombs, wrestling, and just Tafon's never going to find that rhythm. So the pick is Azamat. What do you think, Jakey boy?
I think that you need to make a note real quick that Azamat is 10-0, not 9-4 in the graphic there, sir. But I will also mention, too, do you know how to swim? Just a quick question.
Like a dolphin.
Okay. Well, that's good because we're about to dive in to the record of Azamat right here because the guy is 10-0 and it looks great. So, I think he's got 7 first-round finishes. But as we dive in, this is what we find, my friends. A first-round finish against a guy that's 14-7. Okay, that was the Dana White Contender Series thing. Then he's got a 14-4 record, which looks good, but that's a 170-pounder that he knocked out first round. And then the records are as follows: 0-5, 4-18, 1-7, 5-5, and 0-1. And then he's got a couple decision wins versus 6-8 and a 10-6 guy. Listen, I think this guy's good. He's all power. I agree. He's got the wrestling in his back pocket, but he really does just kind of sit and throw just wild overhand rights. The guy's never really I think he's seen one third-round decision, a lot of first-round finishes. Tafon's a guy, when I watch his striking, I love that he goes to the body, especially in this matchup. He will go to the body with punches and kicks, and I think against Azamat, if he goes there early and is able to withstand the big power from Azamat and the wrestling, I think he can tire this out. I think he can drag this out. Tafon is a powerful guy, but he can also win decisions. In the first matchup here, I'm going with the underdog Tafon in this matchup. I just don't think Azamat is as good as advertised. I think he's all power, and if he doesn't get it, maybe he relies on the wrestling this time, but I think Tafon's got the experience to do this.
I mean, opening the card really sets the tone for the rest of the card. A lot of these fights could go either way, like a ton of them. I think Azamat, he's definitely got the power in his hand. He is fast, and he has the wrestling, where Tafon is just so hit or miss. He has fights, he goes out there, he just straight up does not show up half the time. His hands are slow, he's not really doing anything, he's not comfortable. And Azamat's the type of guy that can make you uncomfortable because he can come forward. You have to worry about the wrestling, worry about the hands. So I like Azamat. You're on the other side, and I'm assuming you love Tafon at $7,400 in DraftKings then.
There's a lot of underdogs that I like on this card, to be honest with you. So I don't know if I don't feel great about him. It's not like a super confident pick in Tafon. I just think that he's able to withstand what Azamat has. And I love that Tafon loves the clinch too. So if there's a grappling exchange where he's tough to take down, that they end up in the clinch, that's where Tafon could do a lot of his damage, just throwing it inside the clinch. A lot of those body shots, I just think they add up, but I don't think I'd play him in DraftKings.
Yeah, I mean, I agree with DraftKings is going to be very interesting this week. There's going to be some people, like the ideal lineup may have like $2,000 left over. It's a crazy, crazy week. I like Azamat, and I may like him enough to put in my lineup because there are not a lot of people at that high 80s to 9,000 mark that I'm very confident in. Azamat is one of them because of the wrestling, but he does have to go to it. Monkey Knife Fight Strike Line, I do think it's a more. I don't think somebody's getting put out very quickly. I think there's more. I think both these guys will have their moments in the fight. I think it's Azamat's toughest fight for sure. And I think, in those grappling exchanges, Tafon, the little pitter-patter trying to defend takedowns may make it happen. What do you think of the Monkey Knife Fight line? Last week we said more and everything, and I'm pretty sure it was more and everything. What do you think here?
Yeah, I think that there's a lot of fights on this card where I kind of want to look at bets because I think they're kind of like trap fights where you look at these two guys, you look at Tafon, you look at Azamat, you see all the first round finishes, you're like, oh, I think this is definitely inside the distance, where I think this could be an over, whether they put it at 1.5 or even 2.5. I think this could be a decision fight. So I like them more in that regard.
Yeah, so I think we're aligned there. And if you want to align yourself with $50 free, go to, it was a solid transition. Go to wewantpicks.com/bets. Sign up with any one of our 5 betting partners. Make a deposit. Let us know after you do, and I send you $50. It is all right there on the website, tracked and ready to go. wewantpicks.com/bets. And sorry I was a few minutes late, guys. I literally dumped my full Yeti of water on my brand new MacBook. So really hoping my laptop doesn't short out on you here. Next up at UFC Vegas 50, we have Guido Cannetti versus Kris Moutinho in one of the weirdest matchups on the entire card. Guido Cannetti is 8-6 overall, about 47 years old. He is 1-4 in his last 5. 1-4 in his last 5. He is coming off 3 tough losses in a row. Kris Moutinho is 9-5 overall. He's 2-3 in his last 5, and he's coming off that absolute destruction by Sean O'Malley. He did take that on short notice, and Sean O'Malley is not an easy guy to take on short notice, but he took a beating in that fight. Guido Cannetti, he's had a rough run as of late. He's 42 years old. He's lost 3 in a row, and he has only fought twice in 2 years. But he did look okay in his last fight against Mana Martinez. And let's not forget, Mana Martinez hits like a truck, and he almost knocked out Ronnie Lawrence just, a month ago. And style-wise, he's a striker. He moves really well. He has really nice kicks. He does not have a ton of power, but he makes up for that power with volume and solid movement. Kris Moutinho, he's coming off that really bad loss to Sean O'Malley. And if there's one takeaway from that fight, it's that he's tough. He's insanely tough. He literally was hit 230 times. 177 of those strikes landed directly on his face. And he just stayed there. He stayed there. He threw some stuff back. Style-wise, he's a striker. He just comes forward and throws punches. That is literally his style. Walk forward, throw punches. It's that simple. He doesn't mix in a whole bunch of different striking techniques, but he does have wrestling in his back pocket. He doesn't necessarily use it. The last time we broke him down when it was short notice. So he's a Northeast guy. I'm from the Northeast. I texted a whole bunch of my Northeast fighter friends, and I'm like, what's up with Kris Moutinho? All of them were like, he's really hittable. That was literally what they said, and we told you that in his last fight. And holy crap, was he hittable. The weirdest thing to me was that he does have wrestling in his back pocket. He wrestled, I forget, New Hampshire, Massachusetts, something like that. He wrestled growing up. He's got wrestling in his back pocket, and he didn't go to it. He was hit in the face 177 times, and at no point was he like, you know what? Let me try to take a shot. He didn't even attempt a shot. He just took the beating, was stopped on his feet. Like I said, he's very tough. And that's what makes this tough, because he's proven to be durable. He does have, he will just come forward and throw strikes. Guido Cannetti is a little older. We've seen him start to slow down a bit, lose a step. And this is an impossible pick. Literally an impossible pick. I think Guido Cannetti is actually the better fighter everywhere. He's just old. And I don't know what to do here. If I could just not make a pick and move on, that's what I would do. Unfortunately,
That's
I
soft.
have to.
I mean, I believe that's the softest thing I've ever heard in my life.
Unfortunately, I have to. I'm going to go with Moutinho here, literally for youth. The only reason is he's young and he can clearly take punches to the face. Other than that, Guido Cannetti's the better fighter. He's got more experience, even though his record doesn't necessarily show that, but he's got more experience. Man, what a weird, ridiculous fight. And I think the UFC is like, all right, we're trying to just get rid of one of you. Let's figure this out. But what do you think, Jake? You shook your head. Please don't make Guido Cannetti your lock of the week.
7-1 and 2 is the lock of the week record in the last 10 weeks. 7-1 and 2, picking all underdogs. And this is an 8-1 and 2 situation. I mean, I've had a lot of lock of the weeks, and guys, I'm very confident in my lock of the weeks. Every single lock of the week, I do deep dive research, and every week they hit. That's why they hit every single week. This is like the most confident lock of the week I've ever had in my life, and it is Guido in this matchup. Listen, Kris, he's tough. And that's really all it is. He's just tough. He showed up, he was tough, but he was just literally a heavy bag for 3 rounds until they finally gave him mercy and stopped that fight. There was never that point in that fight where you're like, oh, okay. No, it was just like, he just got hit again. He showed nothing in that fight. Guido has actually fought real competition. And I know that he's kind of on a losing skid and he is kind of old, but he has the experience. He is the skill fighter. He is like the UFC fighter. I know a lot of people are saying neither one of these guys belong in the UFC, but he is the guy that actually has competed against UFC type level competition. I mean, the last people he's fought are very, very good people, and he's hung tough with them for the most part. I have no idea. I have no idea why he's a favorite. Do you understand why he would be the favorite? He showed nothing.
Literally,
he showed nothing in that Sean O'Malley fight. Nothing. Except he just was tough, which does nothing. I like Guido's ability, actually, with his kicks in this matchup. Sean O'Malley was a lot of punching. Kris had that high guard that was able to block some of those. I think Guido was able to do, some body kicks, some leg kicks, really tear him up, and he should dominate this matchup, man. This is an easy lock of the week. Easy lock of the week.
You know why you're like top 5 most annoying people in my life, Jacob? Would you like to know why? One of the many reasons why.
I can think. I know I'm annoying, so I'm very sorry.
Don't I have a text from you today where you were going to make Kris Moutinho your lock of the week, and then you saw he was the favorite? So
no.
You just switched it?
No, I said Kris Moutinho should be, but I didn't know who he was fighting, and I was like, oh, well.
Uh-huh. Yeah, okay.
It would be a fun lock of the week, but we're not about funny. We did our fun thing last summer, and it did not go well. So we're sticking to the facts. We're sticking to the business. 7-1 and 2 last 10 weeks. It's going to be 8-1 and 2.
Okay. Anyway, So I'm assuming you love Guido at $7,600 in DraftKings then. And I can't wait to see him in your lineup. All right.
Yeah, he's gonna be. I might just play him and nobody else, and I'll still probably win.
Honestly, if Guido Cannetti, I wish the odds were crazy, right? If Guido Cannetti was $6,900 or plus 250, I actually would throw a bet on him. But we're talking almost even money, and this is just a nonsense fight. So I'm not touching this in anything, in nowhere. And I'm not going to recommend you do. I'm not giving you an opinion on the DraftKings prices. This is anybody who puts one of these guys in their lineup. I mean, you know, Guido Cannetti's the underdog, so there's the most value there, but he's not big enough underdog to take that chance. What do you think of Monkey Knife Fight? I think it goes, and, you know, I think it's probably more and more.
Yeah, I mean, Kris, he is tough. I will give him that. He is very, very tough, so it's got to be a more and more.
What a weird fight. What a weird fight. But what's not weird is that I will send you $50 if you go to wewantpicks.com/bets and you sign up with any one of our 5 betting partners. Jump in, make a deposit. You'll get all sorts of deposit matches from them. And then you let me know right on our website and I send you $50. PayPal, Cash App, Venmo, however you want it. I just send you $50 as a thank you for supporting us and our partners. And Jacob, you see Bo in the comment section pretending that I won't just walk over to his house and take him down in front of his wife and kid? Bo,
I don't think you could do that.
That's a warning. That's a warning, Bo.
I don't think. I mean, if I would like to take some action on that.
Next up at UFC Vegas 50, we've got Dalcha Lungiambula versus Cody Brundage. Dalcha Lungiambula, 11-3 overall, 3-2 in his last 5. He's coming off a decision loss to Marc-Andre Barrault. Cody Brundage is 6-2 overall, 3-2 in his last 5, coming off a decision loss to Nick Maximov. And Cody Brundage, he's coming off that loss to Nick Maximov, but let's not forget that was short notice, and that was his official UFC debut. He was out-wrestled in that fight, but he actually has some pretty good wrestling of his own. He wrestled in college, had some success there. He has decent chain wrestling, and he throws big, heavy punches to set it up. He has had a rough, short run in the UFC so far. He had a loss to William Knight on the Contender Series where he was out-wrestling William, probably was about to win a decision that, you know, or was on his way to, and then he just started getting elbowed in the side of the head, old school Travis Brown style, and that ended up putting him out. And despite his 0-2 UFC start, Cody's pretty good. He uses his wrestling well. He's always pushing forward. His striking is big, heavy shots, and those are there to set up the wrestling, but it can get people to react because they are biggie. They are big, they are heavy, and they are coming forward.
Can't you see? Sometimes your words just hypnotize me. Now we're copyrighted.
Yeah, I mean, you see how hard it is to run this show? Dalcha Lungiambula is short for the division. He's not the biggest guy, but he's jacked, fast, and powerful. He comes forward with insane power, with insane pressure. He can also grapple when he needs to. We saw his grappling in his last fight where he had 2 takedowns against Marc-Andre, and in his UFC debut against Daquan Townsend, he had 4 takedowns before eventually knocking him out. This is another really tough fight to pick because both these guys are well-rounded, but both of them have their own clear path to victory. Cody needs to grapple, keep the pressure on, wear out Dalcha, and Dalcha just needs to throw big, heavy strikes on his feet, avoid the takedowns, and get Cody to take, you know, bad shots from far away and then catch him there. My biggest hesitation on picking Dalcha here is he's low volume. He's a low volume guy. We talk about his power, his striking, but he has a negative striking differential. He is hit 4 times for every 3 that he lands. I like Cody to get his first UFC win, but I'm going to be biting my nails this entire fight. Very low confidence pick, but I'm liking Cody here with the versatility in the wrestling. What do you think?
Yeah, first of all, Dalcha, I think you mentioned that he's a former 205er. He was actually a 2-division champion in the EFC. He was a heavyweight and a light heavyweight champion at the same time and defended his light heavyweight belt during that span. In that, while he was fighting 205, I think one of the reasons he came down was he met Ankalaev, who's in the main event of this, and that Ankalaev KO is like the most terrifying. That front kick KO is literally, if you haven't seen it, his most terrifying KO maybe I've ever seen in my life. So he said, you know what, let me come down to 185 where I can kind of bully some people a little bit, and I think he might end up doing that in this matchup. You mentioned Cody does have the wrestling background. he better go to that wrestling because on the feet, he is decent on the feet, but he gets a little showboaty. He thinks he's a lot better than he is. He doesn't have his hands up a lot of times. I think there's going to be some opportunities for Dalcha to rush in, and Cody's going to have his hands down maybe for a desperation takedown. And Dalcha also is very good grappler in his own right. He's a very good wrestler as well. He's not a great defensive wrestler, but if he gets on top of you, how powerful he is, how strong he is, it's not so much technique, but it's power that can keep you down in positions where I think Cody's probably the better wrestler technique-wise, but I think he's going to have issues with Dalcha's physicality and his strength in a lot of these exchanges, and I think Dalcha's going to come out the better of a lot of those. So, I'll be interested to see if Dalcha ends up on his back, if he just kind of stays there, which very well could happen. I agree that this is a very close matchup, but I just think in those exchanges, those wrestling exchanges, Dalcha's going to have the ability to kind of just power out of them, and I think he can capitalize on the feet once he's out of those exchanges. So I'm going Dalcha. He is the favorite, but I think those odds are pretty correct. I think it's kind of a pick 'em fight, but I'm going on the Dalcha side.
Yeah, I mean, this is just such a tough week. I imagine anybody watching, I wouldn't spend a ton of money this week. I wouldn't. This is the type of week that just absolutely decimates people because this is one of those weird weeks where we all think that we're on to underdogs and then every single favorite wins, right? Didn't we have one of those like a month ago where everybody loved a whole bunch of underdogs and all the favorites won?
I usually pick every fight right, so I don't know.
That is usually how that goes. So it's just a tricky week, and this is another tricky fight. There's other fights where we're far more confident, but I do like Cody to get it done. $7,900, though, is not affordable enough for me to really take that chance. You're trying to get 6 wins. You're trying to get 6 stoppages. I don't, we're talking almost $8,000 in DraftKings, and I'm not positive, so I'm not going to spend the $7,900 on him. Are you going to spend the $83 on Dalcha?
No, I don't like it. I haven't really seen him have the defensive wrestle from what I've watched, and that's what worries me. That's what worries me.
And frankly, he's a low volume guy. He's literally like, if you go look at what he scores in DraftKings, and if he doesn't knock somebody out, he scores like no points whatsoever. It's
like 4 really hard shot combo, and then a minute and a half of like catching his breath. So he's boom, 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 and then it's a minute 30, 2 minutes to recover. So that he has gas tank issues too. Because of that. And Cody doesn't. I like Cody to get this done, but we'll see what happens. And then the Monkey Knife Fight strike line is an interesting one too, because, Dalcha's a low volume guy. I think this is a less more situation. I think Dalcha does not get to 63, but I do think Cody gets past 43 because he will incorporate some of that wrestling. So I like less more on the Monkey Knife Fight line. I agree with you 100%, brother. Okay, then. Well, if you want to check out Monkey Knife Fight, go to WeWantPicks.com/MKF. It's daily fantasy, ton of fun, super easy. You just look at these strike lines, you say more or less, and you can triple your money, 25 times your money if you put 6 of them together. It's fun, it's easy, and they will instantly match your deposit up to $100. That's WeWantPicks.com/MKF. And next up at UFC Vegas 50, we've got Sabina Mazo taking on my girl Miranda Maverick. And I don't know why I said my girl. I'm just a big fan. I love breaking her fights down. I've gotten all of them right. Awful her last fight.
And she did, and that's the only female fight that I've gotten wrong, is that one. So don't let me down twice, Miranda.
Somebody fact check that? Can we get?
I didn't know that was it. So Sean V or Chris V commented that on the video, the Quick Picks video. And then I was like, oh crap, look at that. Anyway, Sabina Mazo. 9-3 overall, 3-2 in her last 5, coming off a submission loss to Maria Agapova. Miranda Maverick is 9-4 overall, 3-2 in her last 5, coming off a pretty one-sided loss to Erin Blanchfield. And Sabina Mazo is a kickboxer who has great kicks. People like to compare her to Lady Crow Cop because of how powerful her kicks are. She does not have power in her hands, though, but definitely has power in her feet. She likes to fight at range and control the distance, and I think that's exactly what she needs to do here, because if she lets Miranda Maverick close, she could be in some trouble, because Miranda Maverick is a technical striker, but she's got forward pressure and solid takedowns. She's very strong, and she uses her strength well. She averages a little more than 1 takedown per fight with a 66% takedown accuracy, and she's got good takedown defense despite those numbers. And these numbers were a lot better up until her last fight. That loss to Erin Blanchfield definitely screwed her numbers up a little bit. But both these women, they're coming off 2 losses in a row. I think the UFC is trying to figure out who to keep, who to cut, and what they want to do. If you look at the losses, though, they are not the same. Miranda has that loss to Macy Barber, which was nonsense. That was a robbery. She won that fight. So that should not be a loss, and I think even Macy Barber would agree with that. And then that loss to Erin Blanchfield. Yeah, well, she looked very surprised when they announced her as the winner. And then she's got the loss to Erin Blanchfield with, if anything, showed us just how tough she is and how good her submission defense is. I was surprised that Erin did to her what she did, but Erin Blanchfield apparently is the real deal. And Mazo, on the other hand, she's coming off losses to Alexis Davis and Maria Agapova. The Agapova loss has not stood up, to the test of time, as she was outstruck and outgrappled in those fights. I think Miranda Maverick is too strong and has too much forward pressure for Mazo. I see her coming forward with strikes, pressuring in for a takedown, pretty similar to how Alexis beat her. So Maverick is the pick, and this is one of my more confident picks. Jakey boy, what do you think?
I actually think that she's probably the biggest lock on the card. I think the odds you showed on here are plus 270. I think she's ballooned to like a minus 310. I could see this getting to 350 by fight night once people figure out what the hell's going on. Miranda looked bad, obviously, in her last fight. She was very surprised by the wrestling from Blanchfield, but she also survived in that matchup. I mean, she was played that tough. She showed her toughness because she was getting dominated, but she was working out of position. She was in a crucifix. I've never seen anyone get out of a crucifix. She was in a crucifix, found a way to get out of that. So she showed her toughness, and I love the girls on bounce back fights after that. You see a lot when they get dominated one fight and the next fight, they just look fantastic. I think Miranda puts on a show. I think if she wants to dominate the wrestling, she definitely can. But if she wants to strike with Mazo, slow feet, slow shots. She is tough and she will move forward. Even if you're putting shots into her, she'll keep moving forward. So maybe Miranda gets tired or something and doesn't beat her up quite as bad in the third round. But I think this is a Miranda Maverick play all the way. I think she's honestly the biggest lock on the card in this matchup. She can win anywhere, and the grappling is probably the easiest path for her.
Yeah, I obviously completely agree. And the takedown average was over 2 takedowns going into her last fight. Her last fight, like I said, screwed up her numbers because Erin Blanchfield just completely outgrappled her, start to finish, just completely outgrappled her. And we'll see how good Erin Blanchfield actually is in the future. I agree. I think Miranda's a lock. I hate to spend $9,400 on her, but there are very few people above $8,800 that I'm very confident in, and Miranda is one of them. So I'm very confident in Miranda, and I'm very confident in... Well, I'm not going to... No spoiler.
Ooh, I can't wait to find out.
And I'm sure everybody else will agree. But anyway, I think I did spend it. I already have a lineup built. I'm pretty sure I already spent the $9,400. Do you think that's a ripoff, or are you going to spend it?
Oh, no, I'm spending it for sure. I don't know if she's going to get a stop. I mean, she probably is alive for a stoppage, like a ground stoppage, like a TKO, maybe a submission or something like that. But, yeah, she's going to be in my lineup for sure.
Yeah, and, you just hate spending that much, but it is what it is. And then I do think it's probably... 95 is a lot of strikes, but I do think she gets some takedowns in here. So this is either, man, I don't know, because she could be live for a stoppage. I mean, Agapova took care of her. So, what do you think of the Monkey Knife Fight strike line?
Yeah, I don't like that 95 either, because if she just dominates for 3 rounds, obviously, but I could see her getting a finish. I'd stay away from it.
Yeah, let's see what happens. Let's see what happens with that Monkey Knife Fight strike line as the week goes on. As you know, those lines move. Money comes in, they go up or down with the money. So there's potential there to balloon up even higher. So you take the less, or it gets bet down, and then you can play the more or be more confident in it. But if you want $50 to play with, go to WeWantPicks.com/bets. Jump into any one of the 5 partners. Make a deposit with any one of those 5 partners. Then come back, let me know after you did. I send you $50. Cash App, PayPal, Venmo. It is that simple. WeWantPicks.com/bets. And we have another razor-thin fight. We've got Damon Jackson versus Kamuela Kirk. Damon Jackson is 19-4 overall, 3-2 in his last 5. He's coming off a very bloody war with Charles Rosa. And Kamuela Kirk is 11-4 overall. He's 3-2 in his last 5, and he is riding a nice 3-fight win streak. Damon Jackson's a very good grappler, and he's an opportunistic grappler, meaning he snatches things up and scrambles. He's not necessarily plotting techniques, working from side control to half guard, full guard, side control. He's not working his way around. He's just scrambling and snatching things up in scrambles. He will slug it out on his feet. that can be an asset for him because he starts banging away and then he takes a shot. The problem is, it can be a bit chinny at times. But Kamuela Kirk is also a grappler. He's got decent takedowns, but he does tend to fade later in the fight. He'll get sucked into kickboxing matches, though, where his offense is pretty solid. He's technical, but he's very hittable because he keeps his hands super low. When he's striking, he does a decent job managing range, and he throws out clean 1-2s, but his lack of volume and his willingness to back up does get him in trouble. Both of these guys have upside-down striking differentials and are hit far more often than they hit their opponents, which is always surprising when we break down grapplers because if you think about it logically, if I'm Damon Jackson and I'm a grappler and I spend a good amount of the fights on top, how am I getting hit more than I'm hitting the other person? Because when I'm on top in control, I shouldn't be getting hit at all. And both of these guys suffer from that negative striking differential. But this is an interesting matchup because I think Damon is the better offensive wrestler, and I think he's the more technical striker, but Kirk has more power, and Damon can definitely be chinny. If Damon sticks to a grapple-heavy game plan, I think he can have some success there, just like Amir Khani was able to take down Kirk 5 times. I think Damon can do that as well. I literally worry about his chin. Kirk is definitely the safe pick here, but I'm going to take a chance. I'm going Damon Jackson, and I just hope he's diving at legs this whole time, and his chin is nowhere near Kamuela Kirk's fix. Are we disagreeing again?
That's what I was about to say. I think we've been opposite pretty much on every fight except for the Miranda Maverick one so far. So it's going to be a bad weekend for you. I think that Damon Jackson, if he is able to wrestle, should not dominate this matchup, but should win this matchup. I think this is Kurt's fight to lose, honestly. The odds are actually -110, -110. So it literally is just a complete pick 'em fight. If you're Kamuela Kirk, you got to just keep this fight on your feet. If Jackson takes a good shot, you got to win the scrambles. He is a good grappler in his own right, so he can win scrambles at times. But you cannot pull guard, man. If you get a situation, you can't be one of those jiu-jitsu guys that's trying to grab a neck into a guillotine. You're trying to pull guard in a situation. You got to get back to your feet, because if you pull guard against Damon Jackson, I don't care how good of a grappler you are, he's going to keep control, and he's going to either look for submissions or have some really good ground and pound. So if Jackson's able to get the takedowns and stay on top, he definitely can win this matchup. That's why it's a pick 'em. But if Kurt's able to stay on his feet, he's going to win the striking exchanges. Kurt is a good grappler in his own right, but you just don't. Damon Jackson is not somebody you want on your back, on top of you. His name is a leech for a reason, right? So stay away from it. Keep with the striking, scramble out of the takedowns, get back to your feet, and win a decision.
It's a tough fight. I went back and forth watching the tape. I'd watch a Kamuela Kirk fight and be like, oh, his striking's good. Look at this. I know he's a grappler, but I could watch this and just assume he's a striker. And then I watch a Damon Jackson fight and be like, dude, this guy's diving at legs. Look what he just did to Charles Rosa, who's a very good grappler. So I went back and forth, but I ultimately landed on Damon Jackson. $7,800 is probably not a bad price in DraftKings if you're on the Damon Jackson side, because that, you think he's going to get some takedowns, a bunch of control time, and frankly, outside of a knockout, that's how you score some real points in DraftKings is takedowns and control time, and I think Damon can do that. Do you think Kamuela is worth the $8,400?
No, because I think it's just going to be a lot of defending and scrambling, and maybe he wins a couple scrambles so you get kind of those advanced points and stuff, but this is one of those I'm going to stay away from completely, I think, in DraftKings. I don't like it. Either side. There's probably more value in the Jackson side. Yes.
I think so. All the takedowns and the control time. It's probably a more and more in the monkey knife fight, though, unless you're going to go less on Kamuela because you think he's going to connect with Damon Jackson, who is chinny, and that is the concern. What do you think of that monkey knife fight strike line?
I might go less, honestly, because Jackson is just going to be throwing bombs and diving for legs, and Kurt, I don't know if he's going to have the opportunity to even get off that many strikes. So, and if Jackson's on top, I know Kurt's a very good grappler, but if Damon Jackson gets on top of you, it's trouble.
Look what happened. Look what he did to Charles Rosa, who's a far better grappler. Charles Rosa is a better raw grappler than Damon Jackson is, and Damon absolutely just bloodied him up. So I agree. I think it's more or less. I think Damon Jackson is busy, gets the takedowns. 54 is not that many. We're talking 3 rounds. That's less than 20 significant or total strikes per round. It's not significant strikes. 86 is a bit high because Damon's chinny. If he hits him 86 times, that may be all he needs. So I like the more less on the Monkey Knife Fight Strike line. Check that out at weonpicks.com/MKF and get your free money at weonpicks.com/bets. Sign up with any one of the 5 betting partners. Make a deposit. Let us know after you do, and we send you $50. And anybody wondering why I'm going back and forth with Blake, that's actually my neighbor. So when I threaten to take you down in front of your wife and kids, Blake, just know it's not a stranger I'm saying that to. Next up at UFC Vegas 50, we've got Trevin Jones versus Javid Basharat. Trevin Jones, 13-7 overall. He's 3-1-1 in his last 5. He's coming off a submission loss to Rakhmonov in August. Javid Basharat is 11-0. He's 5-0 in his last 5, obviously, and he's coming off a Contender Series win a few months ago. Trevin Jones is a fun striker with tons of power. He throws everything with 100% and bad intentions. He's not the most technical striker, but he doesn't always need to be because he has a Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu black belt. He fell in love with his power. He fell in love with striking over time, and he's basically turned into a striker, but he is a very capable guy on the ground. Javid Basharat is a grappler who has incredible offensive and defensive wrestling. He has absolutely no problems with a kickboxing match either, and he can be a problem in this division as he evolves. If you watch his fight against Bez Karavani, he has constant movement. He stayed out of danger the entire time, and then he would just lunge in and land his own strikes. You'll see he won that fight by submission, and you might assume that he used his offensive wrestling to get there, but he didn't. He actually was defending takedowns, winning kickboxing match, eventually defended one takedown, ended up reversing that position, and fell right into the submission and got that done. And this is another spot where I'm sure people are going to be screaming, fade the Contender Series guy, because Javid's a Contender Series guy, and you know I love ripping that narrative apart. So, I think it's nonsense. I think Trevin Jones is a very dangerous fighter, both on his feet and on the ground, but I do like Javid to dance around, avoid the power, get his own takedowns, and then control on top to win. I've got another Contender Series guy in this fight, so if all these Contender Series guys lose, I'll stop attacking you Contender Series fade people. But if they keep winning, I don't want to ever hear another person say Contender Series fade. What do you think, Jacob?
I love Trevin Jones. If anyone watched our videos, I've always loved Trevin Jones. He is like the best. He is for sure. I know for a fact he's the best 13-7 fighter you will ever see in your life. I think 3 of those losses are split decisions, so that's kind of why. Unfortunately, this match, and I actually had a whole thing I was going to plan, like, oh, you always got to fade the Contender Series guys. Listen, guy, you always got to do this. I was really going to try and get on your skin, and then I started watching Javid. I'm like, holy shit, this guy is good, man. And Trevin Jones, you mentioned, I think he's a world champion, a grappling champion that's kind of fallen in love with his hands, as you talked about. But if this ends up on the ground, which I think it might, I think Javid, his ground and pound is just disgusting. And if there's scrambles, because maybe Trevin comes in, tries to use his offensive wrestling, we've seen that. That's how he got caught in his last fight with that choke. But if he tries to use his offensive wrestling and it ends up in scrambles, in the tape that I've watched on Javid, he has never lost a scramble. I've never seen him lose one single scramble. He always ends up on top, and he will just start raining down elbows. I think that's how this fight goes. I think he takes a shot. Maybe Trevin tries to take a shot. There's a scramble. He ends up on top, and it's not going to be good for Trevin Jones. So I agree with you. I actually think these odds are pretty spot on. It was a -150 for Javid. I don't know what they are now, but I love Trevin Jones. I think he's very, very good everywhere. He's the best 13-7 fighter I've ever seen in my life. He's going to be around for a while. He's got that talent, but in this matchup, I think it's a bad matchup for Javid with this wrestling, and his ground and pound is relentless. I think he pulls it out.
Yeah, we're finally aligned on a fight, and I actually love the odds here. -150. The only reason I'm not betting that is because, Trevin Jones is dangerous, and it is a step up in competition. So,
and he is good. Yeah, he is good. I mean, he's very talented. Yeah. It's hard to bet against talent like Trevin Jones, honestly.
Yeah, well, and this will probably be the last Javid Basharat fight that I don't bet on, because I'm very confident he wins. And if I had seen him just like one more fight against a UFC caliber guy, I'd be all over that. I love that line. Anything less than -200, I love for this guy, because he's dangerous. So we both agree. I think he's probably solid for DraftKings though. $8,700. You're getting him under the 9,000 mark. He could probably get himself a stoppage here. If not, there should be some takedowns, some control time, stuff like that. So I think we agree $8,700 is probably worth it.
Yeah, this could be a big score for Javid because Trevin is good and he is experienced in the wrestling and the grappling. So there could be a lot of getting back to your feet, getting taken down, getting back to your feet, and those add up quick. This could be like a 7, 8, 9 takedown fight for Javid. And that's nothing against Trevin. That's almost giving it props to Trevin, right? Or Trevin because he can get back to his feet. But yeah, I think it could be one of those. Yeah,
and the Monkey Knife Fight strike line is an interesting one. I think it's more and more. I think Trevin is tough. I do think this goes the distance. I see some of you in the live chat saying does not go the distance, bet the under. I think they're both tough. I think it goes the distance. Trevin's, very tough, and he's game, especially on the ground. So I think it's more and more. I think it's a war. I think it's a ton of fun. And, Monkey Knife Fight, probably going to go with the more and more. What do you think?
Yeah, I'm worried about the ground and pound, but Trevin is tough. You've seen him get knocked down before and still basically come back and win fights and stuff. So he is tough. I'm worried about the ground and pound, but the more and more is probably the safe play.
Yeah, and if you want to check that out, wewantpicks.com/MKF. Monkey Knife Fight, daily fantasy, super fun, super easy. You literally click 2 buttons, and if you're right, you win a whole bunch of money. wewantpicks.com/MKF. And if you want some money to play Monkey Knife Fight with, go to wewantpicks.com/bets. Sign up with any one of our 5 betting partners. Make a deposit. Let me know after you do. I send you $50. Cash App, PayPal, Venmo. You could take that 50, throw it in a Monkey Knife Fight, do what you want. Buy pizza. I don't care. wewantpicks.com/bets. Next up, at UFC Vegas 50, we have J.J. Aldrich versus Gillian Robertson. J.J. Aldrich is 10-4 overall. She's 3-2 in her last 5, coming off a decision win over Vanessa Demopoulos. Gillian Anderson is 10-6 overall. She's 3-2, coming off a submission win just a few months ago. J.J. Aldrich is a decision machine. She's a decent striker with good takedowns and great top pressure. She fights well within her skill set and doesn't take risks. She was able to bully the smaller Demopoulos in her last fight, but that may be a little harder to do in this fight because Gillian Anderson is a well-rounded, very strong. She is primarily a wrestler herself. She bounced back after a 2-fight skid, but she has not had an easy road in the UFC, with her 3 most recent losses being to Miranda Maverick, Tyler Santos, and Macy Barber. Gillian averages almost... That's disgusting. Gillian averages almost 3 takedowns per fight, and I think that's very important here because not many people have had that wrestle-heavy game plan against.
You keep saying Gillian Anderson.
Yeah, that's the X-Files lady. My bad. Gillian Robertson. Gillian Anderson's the lady from X-Files. Oh, well.
X-Files?
Well, that's what she's famous.
Don't they have a theme song or something? What's the...
Okay. And my voice cracks. That really set that home. All right. Well, both of these women are similarly sized on paper, but I do like Gillian to be more of a bully, to work this to the ground. JJ is very well-rounded, but she has had some pretty favorable matchups. Yeah, she's faced some tough competition like Courtney Casey, Macy Barber, and Pollyanna, but she has not fought someone as physical as Gillian.
Pollyanna?
Or someone who looks to wrestle as much as she does either. I like Gillian here. I love the minus 150 odds. I think those are pretty spot on. And I'm all over Gillian Robertson in this fight. What do you think, Jacob?
I have no idea.
Always
No,
very
I literally have no idea. It's going to come down to who wins this screen, who's able to offensive wrestle, right? And I don't know. I mean, they're both good wrestlers. Gillian's shown to me a little bit more. I think she's a little bit more technical, where JJ, like you mentioned, that Demopoulos fight is able to kind of physical things more than technique-wise things, if that makes any sense. But this is going to come down to who is able to offensive wrestle the other one. Even on my sheet, I haven't even picked. I have nothing. I have nothing about this fight. whoever wins the scrambles, I've seen Gillian get out of defensive positions a little bit better, I guess, than JJ. She's been in those positions before. She has the more experience. So even if she gets taken down, maybe she's able to win a scramble, end up on top. And once Gillian's on top, it's kind of bad news, even if you're JJ Aldrich. So I am leading the Gillian side. I think she's the favorite in this matchup. She probably should be because she does have the experience. But this is going to be who is able to, impose the will of them on the other person. So it's a very, very close fight. I can see value on both sides, but I guess I'm going the experience with Gillian.
Yeah, I mean, I completely agree. I mean, those 3 takedowns per fight average, and plus just look at the level of competition. Gillian Robertson has fought the higher level of competition. She's come out on the right side of a lot of those fights, and I just think JJ, I don't know. She's very talented.
If JJ comes in the first round, double legs Gillian and just kind of not mauls her, but just controls her, I would not be surprised by that. But I just think it's the more likelihood is Gillian is the one doing that.
Yeah, and JJ, she sticks within her skill set. She doesn't really take risks. And I think this is a fight where she might need to take risks and might need to pull herself out of her comfort zone against somebody as physical as Gillian Robertson. So we're both on the Robertson side. And I think these odds are spot on. -150, that seems pretty appropriate to me. $8,500 in DraftKings.
If you think she wins.
Yeah, because if you think she wins, honestly, you might get more value out of her than Miranda Maverick. Where I think Miranda Maverick is far more likely to win her fight. But if Gillian wins, which I think she should, she's going to get a bunch of takedowns, a bunch of control time. Like, she should actually put up some real solid numbers.
And she's a real submission threat, too.
And she's almost $1,000. She's $900 less for your DraftKings lineup. So, Gillian Robertson.
That's actually a great point, that she's like a more... Yeah, that's a great point. She may have just as much value at $1,000 cheaper. $900 cheaper.
Yes,
that might be the best thing that's the only thing you've ever said that actually kind of makes sense.
Well,
so
there you
great
go.
By you.
Because I would say Miranda Maverick is like 90% should win the fight. Gillian Anderson, like 75% should win the fight. So then you just factor that in with the price point, and they'll probably score similarly. So yeah,
you kind of lost me on that last part, but you kind of rambled a little bit.
Clear as day. Just as clear as the form on WeWantPicks.com/bets where you claim your $50 free. And if you want to get the $50 free, just go to WeWantPicks.com/bets.
You said Anderson again, I guess. Jesus.
Did I? Jesus Christ. Oh, wow.
What's the theme song? Da, 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 da.
Go to WeWantPicks.com/bets. Sign up with any one of our 5 betting partners. Make a deposit. Let me know after you do. I send you $50. Cash App, PayPal, Venmo, however you want. Another tough fight, guys. Another tough fight. Because next up at UFC Vegas 50, we have Matt Semmelsberger versus AJ Fletcher. Matt Semmelsberger, 9-3 overall, 4-1 in his last 5. He's coming off a TKO win just 4 months ago. AJ Fletcher, 9-0 overall, 5-0 in his last 5, coming off a dominant Contender Series win. I do my research before I look at the odds. I do the research, I watch the tape, I take all the notes that I'm reading from now, I do all of that, and then I look at the odds. And when I looked at the odds after my pick and everything, I was shocked. I was very surprised that AJ Fletcher was a plus 200 underdog. Very surprised to see that. Very surprised. Matt Semmelsberger is an aggressive striker who marches forward. He's got solid leg kicks and body work. He's got some power, and he's had some one-punch knockouts in the past, but most of his finishes actually just come from grit and forward pressure. The marching forward can wilt some of his opponents who don't like that pressure, but it can also get him in trouble at times. You might see that he has a 100% takedown defense, but it's a little misleading because he has literally only defended one single takedown in the UFC, and that was from Carlton Minus, who isn't exactly a stud wrestler. AJ Fletcher, he's short, he's jacked, and he's intense. He's coming off a spectacular Contender Series win where he won by flying knee knockout against the cage. And breaking down his film, you'll see a lot of knockouts, a lot of knockdowns, everything from head kicks to overhand rights. But he's not a striker. He's actually a fantastic wrestler, a fantastic grappler, and he does an amazing job with his takedowns where he will attack on the feet, and when you start firing back, as soon as he finishes throwing that combination and you're trying to throw something back, he just lowers his elevation and he's in on those hips so incredibly fast. It's very impressive, and once he hits the ground, he just pounds away, and if you adjust in any way to avoid those strikes, he's on your back. He's inside. It's just... His fast twitch reactions is incredible. I love AJ Fletcher here. I absolutely love him. This is another one, the Contender Series fade people. You are going to miss out on a big payday if you don't jump on the AJ Fletcher train. And I hope I don't look stupid as hell because Matt Semmelsberger has legit power in his...
Call him a lock.
Matt Semmelsberger does have...
Call him a lock. Come on. Call him a lock.
Does have some sneaky power. And this is definitely a step up... Definitely a step up in competition for AJ. And because if you look at AJ's record, he's 9-0, but he's just destroyed local level competition. Matt's leg kicks can certainly be a problem for AJ. So he needs to be, but they can be a problem for himself because he needs to be careful when he sets him up. If he just throws a leg kick that he didn't set up with his punches and then he doesn't finish the combination with punches as well, all of a sudden AJ Fletcher's going to catch it, shoot a takedown, and he's going to be in his own trouble. So I love AJ here. I like him to be a problem on the feet. I like him to be a problem on the ground. My only concern is his cardio. And not that I've seen his cardio fade, and he does have a decision win, but he's not built for endurance. He's all fast twitch muscle. He will probably fade as the fight goes on. But I like AJ Fletcher, underdog spot. I put 1 unit, and I got him at plus 220 before the line moved. What do you think, Jakey boy?
You want to make this our 50-100? I'll give you 100 if AJ wins. You give me 50 if Matthew wins?
No. I already bet on him. I'm not betting again.
Yeah, no, yeah. You're real confident in that pick. Jesus Christ. Yeah, so I think that AJ probably is the play with his wrestling. I'm glad you mentioned the timing of his takedowns because it is credible. The second you try to load up on anything and he sees it coming, he just ducks right under and he will take you down. So Matt's got to be careful because he does have those first round knockouts, 2 of his last 3 or something. Or I think one was 16 seconds, one's 15 seconds. And those were like legit knockouts, just straight down the pipe. Matt's got to take something off his power, especially early, because if he starts throwing power early, AJ's going to get there, they're going to be dry, and it's going to be an issue for Matthew. So if he can kind of take off early, kind of wait till that late first round, second round, because AJ is a big guy, let that blood flow a little bit, let him get tired a little bit, and then come in so he can defend the shots a little bit better. I think that's his best matchup. The thing that honestly made it for me, when I'm watching AJ Fletcher in his fights, he just looks like a guy that's going to get knocked out. I don't know what it is. There's just something about his dumb little face, the way he fights. He just looks like a guy that's just going to get knocked out. And if there's somebody that's going to get knocked out, it's probably going to be Matt Semmelsberger that's going to knock you out. So, no offense to AJ. He could probably, take me. But I think he gets knocked out. Yeah, I mean, I would like to see the odds. I'd probably be like a plus 350, 400 maybe. But
no, absolutely.
Yeah, I'm going Semmelsberger in this matchup. I don't disagree that AJ probably is the play because he's got the wrestling, but Semmelsberger has shown in the past that he doesn't care about your wrestling.
Didn't you fall down at the gas station yesterday and really bust up your knee?
If you saw my knee, I don't even think I'm allowed to show it. It wouldn't have fall. I was there was a guy that came out and tried to fight me. I went to throw a spinning. I went to throw a wheel kick, and there was some gas, and I slipped a little bit. The knee went right into the asphalt. It is like a balloon.
Yeah, no, he tripped on the hose that goes into his Mazda Miata. So, DraftKings wise, $9,300 on Matt Semmelsberger. I don't like it. I do love $6,900 on AJ Fletcher, and he is in my lineup already. So I love AJ Fletcher, as I've mentioned several times. He is in my lineup. You taking the chance?
Huh?
You're putting AJ Fletcher? I was going to say taking the chance on AJ because you said you like everything except his dumb face.
Look at his face. That dumb little face.
First of all, I tweet these to the fighters, so he will watch it. And
no, that's from an old. What's that show?
Yeah,
that dumb little face when he's like trying to fight the baby. He's like, what? He's known him like what? He's known me 20 years. Like less than a year.
Oh yeah,
Zane, get your boy.
Yeah.
When he tries to, he's like, "What's he looking at? Look at his face, his dumb little face."
Anyway,
He's got a baby face. That's all I was trying to say.
he reminds me of Sean Shirk in stature and style. $6,900. I'm going to spend it. Are you going to spend the 93?
No.
Okay. I like.
But no, I'm not.
I like the more in Monkey Knife Fight. I think it's a war. 34 strikes for AJ is not a lot at all. I think he has no problem getting past that. What do you think of the Monkey Knife Fight strike line? 64 is a little high. You like more?
Yeah, I think so.
I think so too.
probably
I think it's a war. I honestly think it's a war. 64 is the number that concerns me here, but I do think these guys go at it. Okay. Well, you're just
I already gave my input. I already gave my input. I don't know what we're doing here.
This show is falling apart. Go to WeWantPicks.com/bets before we completely fall apart. Get your $50 free by jumping in
His dumb little face.
any one of our 5 betting partners at WeWantPicks.com/bets. Any one of the 5, make a deposit. Let me know after you do. I send you $50. Cash App, PayPal, Venmo, however you want it. Yeah, dude. I mean, you can't hide behind. There's no hiding.
Well, that's why. I live in California. There's a lot of security here.
Yeah. This is going to be the most controversial fight that we break down. I'm sure of it. You guys were already in the live chat talking about it a good 40 minutes ago. And now we're finally here because next up at UFC Vegas 50, we have Alex Pereira taking on Bruno Silva in a battle of the big power middleweight strikers. Alex Pereira is only 4-1 in his MMA career, and that's because he had a very successful professional kickboxing run. He's coming off a great UFC debut with a KO over Michailidis. Bruno Silva, 22-6 overall. He hasn't lost since 2016, and he's riding a 7-fight stoppage streak. And Bruno Silva, he had a 3-year layoff in there because of PEDs, which whatever, is what it is. But he came back after that. And he had a very busy and a very, very successful run in 2021 with 3 fights and 3 knockouts. His last fight was in December where he knocked out Jordan Wright in the first round. But before that, he had that come from behind knockout win to save himself from losing a decision to Andrew Sanchez. Andrew Sanchez had taken him down 7 times in that fight. But that showed me that Bruno has the mental and physical toughness to just never be out of a fight. I mean, he was clear that dude was going to lose a decision, and he just pulled himself up and just knocked him out, and then that was the end of it. He's fantastic striker. He does have solid BJJ, and I keep talking about his knockouts and his power, but he can absolutely ground and pound. Not all of those knockout wins on his record are standing. A lot of them were ground and pound, and he is good. Good jiu-jitsu guy as well. Alex Pereira, he's a very high-level kickboxer. He's famous for knocking out Israel Adesanya in a kickboxing match. Alex is exactly as good of a striker as you would expect him to be. He has great leg kicks, great body kicks, great power, and everything is well-timed. Everything is well-distanced. The big question anyone has when these big high-level strikers come over to the UFC is, will the takedown defense hold up? Well, we know he's training in Connecticut with Glover. He's definitely getting the work in. And even in that Michailidis fight, he was taken down twice, but he popped right back up both times, never lost his composure, and then obviously ended up winning by knockout. This should be a really fun fight. We've got 2 guys that are only looking to stand. We may see Bruno Silva shoot some takedowns, and he does have that ability. We just haven't seen it in forever. But he can grapple. Go back, watch some of his older fights, not in the UFC, and he can grapple. But I am thinking these guys are going to stand up. We've got Bruno with the raw power and the MMA experience, Pereira with the power and the kickboxing credentials. And if this was a kickboxing-only match with kickboxing gloves, obviously Alex Pereira wins this easy. But this is MMA. This is the small gloves, and there's threats of takedowns. Bruno does have 0 takedowns in the UFC, but that doesn't mean he's not going to try some here. He's not clueless. He knows who he's fighting and what he's up against in this fight. He just hits so incredibly hard, and as much as I love seeing high-level kickboxers like Alex Pereira come over, as much as I love seeing that, Some of these guys get used to blocking with the kickboxing gloves, and they keep them here. They're high, they're tight, and they're big round gloves that will block a lot of those shots coming in. But these little MMA gloves, this block here still isn't enough. And those little gloves can get right through. So I actually am taking the chance on Bruno Silva here. I think he can sneak something in. I think he has incredible power. Everybody, I totally understand why we're so high on Alex Pereira. The dude only has 5 MMA fights. And this is an MMA fight. So I like Bruno Silva here. He has the same power as Alex Pereira. He will not be nearly as technical, but you brawl a boxer, right? So if he makes it dirty, ugly, comes in swinging heavy, big, powerful overhands in volume, I could see some getting through. He mixes in some takedowns. All of a sudden, it's a frustrating night. I'm taking a chance on Bruno Silva. I got 1 unit on him as plus 165, and that line has moved. I am not the only one with that mindset. And before I pass it to you, Razor Rob McCullough is another name that comes to mind. World champion kickboxer, went over to the WEC and just kept getting knocked out because his blocking style just doesn't work. And a lot of those big, heavy gloves, you can get hit a little more than with the little gloves, and it just didn't transition as well. I'm done with that. What are your thoughts? Wait, hold on. Very last thing. Who just tried to bet me? Somebody just tried to bet me in the live chat on this fight. From now on, I am only betting members, right? I've supposed to have won $600 off of you people. The only people that have actually paid me when they lost were members. So from now on, if you want to bet me, click the join button, become a member, and then I'm happy to bet you. Jacob.
I am a member, and I would like to bet you. Would you want to do the 100? Will you want to do the 150?
You gonna give me odds?
Yeah, you get 100 if Bruno wins. I get 50 if Alex wins.
All right, done.
Easy, very easy. Yeah, so this is going to be Alex Pereira fight all the way. This was tailor-made for Alex Pereira. I would not even be surprised if we see Alex Pereira use offensive grappling against Bruno Silva. I mean, that seems crazy for a kickboxer, but I mean, he is in Glover's camp. You got Wellington Turn in that camp. I mean, there's been a lot of grappling, I'm sure, getting ready for this camp because, you know, obviously the striking is already there for Alex Pereira. So he's going to be ready for the grappling. I wouldn't be surprised if he turns the tables a little bit, shows a little bit of a takedown threat like Andrew Sanchez that drops the hands of Bruno Silva, and then all of a sudden it's issues for Alex Pereira. Bruno Silva is already a guy that kind of he doesn't keep his hands up very well at all times, and he is a guy with power, and he really only has 1 loss in the last 10 years, which is kind of crazy. I know he had that little drop because of the PEDs, but that's still 1 loss in the last 10 years, but he better keep his hands up in this matchup, man, because I think this was tailor-made to show off Alex Pereira yet again on a main card. I think the pay-per-view main card is next for this guy. He is the real deal. Last time I won a bunch of money on Wellington because I believed in Glover and the camp that they run. Glover being the champ, I think that elevated everyone's level in that camp. I think everyone's working twice as hard around Glover, the light heavyweight champion of the world, who I can't wait to see fight later this summer and defend that title. I'm going the Glover effect. I'm going Alex Pereira 100%. I just made that bet with you, and he's probably gonna be my. What's the DraftKings? Can you flip back?
Very expensive.
I think he finds a knockout.
Listen, whatever side you're on, 100% one of these guys should be in your lineup. Whatever side you're on. I'm obviously on Bruno Silva's side, but this will not go the distance. It just can't. There's too much power flying around that this will not go the distance. What are the odds for does not go the distance?
I don't know. Let me check for you. Jamie, can you look that up for us?
People are trying to bet me left and right now. Plague Runner, I'll do the $20. I think you're a member, right? So
no is minus 600.
Yeah.
So, have fun. Have fun.
It's cheaper to bet both sides.
You can get under 1.5 for minus 170.
I mean, even that, those are just not good enough odds. Anyway, I do think Monkey Knife Fight is probably less as well. These seem pretty high when we're talking about 2 guys that hit as hard as they do. Especially because Pereira's last fight, you know, he was defending some takedowns and stuff. So I think Monkey Knife Fight is less. And listen, Monkey Knife Fight has something called Knockout Kings. You pick any 3 fighters on the...
Yeah, everyone pay attention to this. Listen to this. This is important. Angelo, you muted us somehow.
My hand hit the microphone. Sorry.
Hey, you're muted.
I'm unmuted. I should be unmuted.
There we go.
Can you hear me? Yeah. My hand hit the
Jesus,
microphone.
I thought my headset died. I was like,
No,
oh my
no,
God, I was
no.
messing with my headset. Oh my, we
No,
didn't
no,
hear
no.
any. I don't know what the last.
My
thing you
hand
said
hit
was.
the microphone. Anyway, Monkey Knife Fight. WeWantPicks.com/MKF. You jump in there. It's daily fantasy, super legal, super easy, super fun. They have a game called Knockout Kings. You pick any 3 fighters, any 3 on the entire card. And if one of them wins by knockout, you get a 25% net return on your money. 25% net profit if one person wins by knockout. Take both of these guys, throw them in there, grab whatever third person you want, max play the hell out of it, and you will make a whole bunch of money. It's 25%. You're not tripling your money, not quadrupling, but it is a guarantee that one of these guys is going to lose by KO or TKO, and you will get that 25%. I just hammer it. Hammer the hell out of it. Sorry, Kris from Monkey Knife Fight, but sometimes this happens, and there will be a knockout here. You agree, Jacob?
Dude, I'm like having a heart. I was like freaking out. I was like, "Where's my other headphone?" I thought my head thing died. I didn't know what the hell was going on.
No, I just get. I'm Italian. I get very animated. My hand hit the.
You were muted the whole time.
All right. Well, editing it out.
The whole card.
Okay. No, believe me, I heard all your bullshit. Next up, at UFC Vegas 50, we have another very interesting fight. We've got Drew Dober taking on very short notice replacement Terrence McKinney. Terrence McKinney stepped up, I think it's 10 days or whatever. I saw him tweet the actual amount of days in the turnaround. It's 10 days, something like that. Anyway, Drew Dober, 23-11 overall, 3-2 in his last 5. He's coming off losses to Islam and a war with Brad Riddell. Terrence McKinney is 12-3 overall, 5-0 in his last 5, and he's coming off a submission win over Faraz Ziem just 2 weeks ago. Drew Dober is a fun take one to give one striker. He has really nice power, a very good chin, and a willingness to brawl. He's technically sound, but that doesn't stop him from just getting wild. He's very durable, and unless you're Islam, any fight with Drew Dober is a really tough fight. I wouldn't say he has holes on the ground, but historically speaking, the way that you beat Drew Dober is you take him down. And Terrence McKinney, he was a giant underdog in his UFC debut against Matt Frivola. He was an underdog against Faraz Ziem 2 weeks ago, and he's an underdog in this fight too. And this is not his first short notice fight either. That Matt Frivola fight, he took on very short notice. He hopped in there and he won with a 7-second knockout. McKinney is long, he's powerful, he likes to fight at range. And don't let all the knockouts fool you. He is a JUCO All-American wrestler, and he just looked so freaking slick on the ground with Faraz Ziem. Terrence McKinney, he opened at more than a 2-1 underdog here. He opened at like plus 250 or something like that, and I understood it on its surface, right? Because Drew Dober is just so freaking tough. He hits so hard, and you know, if Terrence McKinney wants to stand with him, that could be a tough night. And the hype around McKinney, though, it is real. But let's not forget, he fought on the Contender Series in 2019, and he was knocked out. So it's not like Terrence McKinney is undefeated. His chin's never been checked. His chin was checked, and he was knocked out in 2019. With that being said, Brad Riddell was able to take Drew Dober down 5 times to get that win. And I see more of the same here for McKinney. I think he looks to wrestle and control from there. I do not advise him to stand and bang, even if he has had success recently with the striking. I grabbed Terrence McKinney moneyline. I got it at plus 185. It's still on its way down. If you want in on him, I would get in on him now because I see the money's moving. People are all over Terrence. I get it. I do think this is far more dangerous. Like some people are like, oh, Terrence is a guarantee. He's not a guarantee. This is a dangerous fight. Drew Dober is not a bum. But I think Terrence McKinney, stylistically, should have a pretty straightforward fight. What do you think?
Yeah, this is honestly the dumbest shit I've ever seen in my life. Terrence McKinney was going to be my lock of the week if Kris Moutinho wasn't as bad as he was. This is crazy to me. I mean, I'm glad, and I'm actually surprised that he is the underdog after he was able to show off the wrestling, right? Because he really hasn't been able to show that off in the UFC. Last fight, he was able to get the takedown, show how dominant of a wrestler he can be and a grappler that he can be.
There wasn't he tripped.
But he dominated on the ground. He was able to show
Oh,
off his wrestling on the ground.
grappling was spectacular.
Yes, I don't know if I said takedown, but yeah, the grappling and stuff. He was able to show how well he controlled people on the ground. He's not just a knockout guy. He is a wrestler. He's a JUCO. What? He's a national champion.
All-American.
Right?
JUCO
All-American. Yeah, JUCO All-American. So I absolutely love him in this matchup. I'm going to give a comparison right now that people aren't going to be able. They might not like it, but this is the most spot-on comparison you're ever going to hear in your life. Drew Dober is the lightweight version of Jeremy Stevens. He's very, very tough. He's very, very good everywhere. He's going to end up fighting everyone in this division because he is right at that level. He's right at that 10 level where he could be ranked, fall out of the rankings, win a couple fights. He is the Jeremy Stevens of the division. He's always going to be there. He's a very good, well-rounded fighter with a little bit of wrestling, decent power in his hands. But Terrence, I think he goes to the wrestling early in this fight and just able to dominate control. And he's a finisher once he gets you where he wants to be. So I'm 100% on Terrence McKinney. This is super disrespectful. I'm a believer now in him, and I can't believe he's still an underdog.
I am surprised. It's funny because when I saw it at first, I'm like, oh, yeah, I get it, man. Drew's tough. And then the more you look at it, the more you think about it. It's like, listen, Brad Riddell, who's the Tiger Muay Thai striking coach, or was at one point in time, took him down 5 times. 5 times. Terrence McKinney's a JUCO All-American American wrestler. He should be able to take him down. Now, if Terrence stands and bangs because he's been doing that lately, he could actually find himself in some trouble. I mentioned he's been knocked out before. He does not have, this invincible chin where Drew Dober basically does. So that could be a little bit of some trouble.
I mean, look at that chin. Jesus Christ.
It holds up.
That thing's granite. He's like that. He looks like the commercials. Have you seen the things where you bite the rubber thing over and over and it improves your jaw muscles? And then there's that one guy that's got his jaw muscles out to here. Someone says it looks like he can suck peanut butter through a straw. That's Drew Dober.
Yeah, no, he definitely's got a chin. It is held up. The Brad Riddell fight, he was dropped. He dropped Brad, but they went at it, and that's an incredible fight. I don't know how Terrence McKinney will do in just a straight up war like that. We haven't seen him in a war.
Yeah, we haven't seen his cardio be tested. That's why I was hesitant on him his last fight, and obviously it was never tested still. That's the biggest question mark, is how is he going to look like late second, third round if this goes there.
Yeah. Well, either way, $7,200 for me is an absolute no-brainer for DraftKings. Straight up no-brainer for DraftKings. I'm sure you agree with that. Monkey Knife Fight's interesting. It's, I don't know what to do. 60s, it's only 20 per round. Drew's a pretty busy guy, but I do think he gets taken down. I think it's a less-more situation or a less-less.
Oh, I disagree. I think it's a more.
You think they go at it for 3 rounds? I think if
clearly,
Terrence...
Yeah, I said more.
Okay. If Terrence gets him down and gets him down often and early, I think
that's when we're going to get those comments that are like, man, those guys just have no... What are those comments when they think we're serious when we argue and stuff? Those guys hate each other.
Early on, people used to be like, Angelo's so mean to Jacob, and it's just not appropriate.
No, they just gotten used to it. Now you made them... you keep doing it.
I normalized bullying, and good for me. And good for you, because you can get $50 free if you go to WeWantPicks.com/bets. We have 5 different betting partners. Sign up with any one of those 5 betting partners. Make a deposit. Let us know after you do, and we send you $50 as a thank you for supporting us and our partners. That's WeWantPicks.com/bets. Next up at UFC Vegas 50, we have Khalil Roundtree versus Carl Robertson. Khalil Roundtree is 9-5 overall, 2-3 in his last 5. Coming off that very sketchy sidekick stoppage over Buskaskis 5 months ago. Carl Robertson, 9-4 overall, 2-3 in his last 5, coming off 2 submission losses in a row. And this is Khalil's first fight since that sidekick stoppage over Buskaskis. If you remember, he was just sort of kicking the knee. It was a John Jones kick that everybody, sort of would lightly criticize John for it. Khalil did it, looked really bad, looked gross. Everybody's saying it should be an illegal kick. Well, it was perfectly legal when he did it, but it's definitely not the best look in the world. But
is
Khalil
it dirty?
Roundtree,
Would you say it's dirty?
If it's legal, it's not dirty.
DC said that's not a strike you would do in practice, and you're supposed to practice how you play.
Practice in a straight up fight. You also don't elbow in practice either. So, Khalil Roundtree.
I think Sean Strickland does.
Yeah, and then people keep complaining he's slicing him open and he's not going to have any training partners. Anyway, Khalil Roundtree, he's a Muay Thai striker. He's got a ton of power and is very fast. He was struggling a bit a few years ago, and to try to separate himself from the pack, he moved to Thailand, tried to reinvent himself, came back, and just absolutely fell flat in that comeback fight. He has won since then, but he's a bit inconsistent. He's had some mixed success. He can knock anyone out on any day as long as he's the one dictating the pace and he's the one that's pressuring forward. And that's exactly what he did against Bukauskas in that last fight. The biggest issue for Khalil is he has holes on the ground and only a 50% takedown defense to try to keep it on its feet. Carl Robertson is a decently well-rounded guy with solid striking and a few sneaky submissions in his back pocket. The problem for him seems to be that the UFC uses him to get other people nice wins and to get other people back on track. They threw him at Marvin Vettori and Brendan Allen back to back, but he's a solid fighter who is pretty well-rounded. And the odds makers here have this as a pick'em when it opened, and it has slightly moved towards the Carl Roberson side, and he's become a little bit more of a favorite. Khalil is absolutely the better raw striker, but he can be gun-shy. Carl Roberson doesn't have the best takedowns, but at a 57% accuracy, we have seen him use wrestling in the past, like when he beat Derek Stewart, Jock Marshman, and Roman Kopylov. So I'm going to give the slight edge to Roberson here because I think he can hang in the striking or at least avoid the big strikes. And then if they get it to the ground, there's a big skill gap between the two of them and a clear win for Roberson if he gets it to the ground. So I do like Roberson here. Jakey boy, what are your thoughts?
Yeah, Robertson 9-4. The 4 losses, all submission losses. He's not gonna have to worry about getting submitted by Khalil Roundtree. I think it honestly might even be that easy of a pick because in the striking, Carl Robertson, a former professional kickboxer, has a lot of experience in the striking. He should be a better striker. He should be a better wrestler. Should be a better grappler. But Khalil Roundtree is one of those guys that seems to show up when you don't expect him to show up. That Modestas fight was hilarious because in the first round, he was blitzing forward with these combinations. They were a little bit wild, weren't very technical. But you guys got to go back and watch that fight. The look of Modestas' face when Khalil was running after him was like, it was like those videos of street fights when one side realizes I shouldn't be in this fight anymore and they like try to just run away and there's like legit like fear and terror in their eyes, like, oh my God, what's about? He put that fear in another fighter's eyes the way he was blitzing forward. So if Carl is able to withstand that early blitz forward, if Khalil comes out with it, because we've seen, you mentioned he is passive at times, if he comes out of that blitz, if he can just withstand that with his kickboxing background, round 2 will slow down. He probably can get the takedowns if he wants them. But I think this is a back and forth kickboxing match that Carl outpoints him 3-1 in the strikes. Kind of dominates it, but doesn't put him away. I put a bet on this for over 2.5 rounds. I think it's minus money, but I wouldn't put a unit on it. I just think this is just kind of a back and forth, boring kickboxing match that Carl should dominate. If he wants to go to the grappling, he definitely can do that, but I think he can win it however he wants, and I think these odds should be a little bit wider than they are. But Khalil is he's a wild card, man.
Yeah, it's he definitely is, and he has that just raw power. So he could definitely make something happen. DraftKings has it as a pick'em, so obviously I like the Carl Roberson side. You're going to get even money on him, and we both think he wins. You think he can win striking and grappling. I think he probably should stick with the grappling here just because of Khalil's straight up raw power. And I agree, it's probably a more monkey knife fight because I do think it goes a little bit. Neither one of these guys, you know, obviously they both have some power and technique, but neither one of them are just like glass jaw, get knocked out. They're both pretty tough guys. So I like the more and monkey knife fight. Do you as well? I'm assuming yes.
I assume yes.
Okay. Go to WeWantPicks.com/bets. Sign up with any one of our 5 betting partners. Make a deposit. Let us know after you do, and we send you $50 as a thank you for supporting us and our partners. That's $50 free at WeWantPicks.com/bets. Next up at UFC Vegas 50, we have Alex Bruce Leroy Caceres taking on Sadiq Youssef. Alex Caceres is 19-12 overall. He's 5-0 in his last 5, and he's coming off a submission win over Sangwoo Choi. Sadiq Youssef is 11-2 overall. He's 4-1 in his last 5, coming off a decision loss about a year ago. Bruce Leroy is a tried and true vet. He's only 33 years old, but he is having himself a career resurgent. His last loss was a submission loss to Kron Gracie in 2019, and since then he has strung together 5 solid wins in a row. The level of competition in that streak is not great, but his last win against Sang-Woo Choi was very solid. Caceres is pretty good everywhere. His striking is good. His durability is good. His wrestling and grappling are much better than you expect him to be, and he has a wealth of experience at this point. I mean, just look at how many fights he has. Sadiq Youssef is a fantastic striker. He's got a ton of power, incredible speed, and a wide variety of attacks. His fight against Mike Davis might be the best Contender Series fight of all time, and he showcased his diversity in that fight. He used leg kicks well, and his takedown defense was on point. The most impressive thing to me was how well his cardio stood up. And he's coming off a decision loss to Arnold Allen, where he defended 3 out of 5 takedowns, but those 2 takedowns that he didn't defend were the difference in that fight. It's hard to look at Bruce Leroy's last 5 fights and still pick against him here, but I do think Youssef is just too powerful. I think he's just too fast on his feet for Alex, and with his averaging less than 1 takedown per fight, I don't see Alex getting this to the ground. I don't see him being able to ride out a win. I think this is a really tough fight for both guys, and this is a great test to see how good Sadiq actually is. Sadiq is the pick, but this may be a plus 3.5 on Alex Caceres. And if you don't know what that is, you basically buy 1 single round on the judge's scorecard. If you think Alex is tough enough, which he's proven to be very tough, if you think he's tough enough to steal a round, maybe get a takedown at some point, and just one of the rounds he can win on his own, then that's probably a solid bet for you. And you can get that at WeWantPicks.com/bets. BetOnline is the only betting partner that offers that, but it's a solid spot when you got a big underdog like this. What do you think, Jacob?
Yeah, Alex Caceres is another one of those guys where you look at that 19-12 record and you think like, but he's a very, very good 19-12. Of those 12 losses, 3 of them are split decision losses, and 7 of them are submission losses, because he used to be one of those guys that would get in these wild scrambles with the people, and he's a very good grappler. He's a very opportunistic grappler, but in those scrambles and stuff, trying to do a little bit too much, you kind of get caught up at times, and that's how you get submitted in those fights, where now you kind of see he's kind of tightened some things up. We talk about guys like Michelle Pajeda and Johnny Walker, and some guys that are kind of a little bit wild. They need to kind of reel it in a little bit. And we see some guys that have success once they do that, especially like Michelle Pajeda. He reels it in a little bit, and he's having a little bit more success. Alex Caceres is another one of those guys where you could tell a couple years ago he really kind of reeled it in, really focused. He doesn't do a lot of wild stuff anymore, and now he's on a 5-fight win streak. He's a very, very good, experienced fighter. He knows how to use his distance. He's a long guy. He uses that kind of karate back and forth. The thing that worries me with that karate stance is he doesn't have a lot of side-to-side kind of boxing head movement. His hands are low. When he's moving back from punches, a lot of just chin up, straight back. You saw in that his last fight, he got dropped early with one of those. Just kind of, he thinks he can just kind of get out of his range with his chin. And against Sadiq, that's going to be an issue if Sadiq's able to find that target. But with that said, I just like Caceres with his opportunistic grappling. I don't know if he's going to be able to get... He's not a guy that really shoots takedowns, but in these weird scrambles where they're against the cage, in a clinch, he just has this weird ability to just get on people's backs, kind of trip them to the ground, and once he gets you there, I think he's going to be able to not dominate Sadiq, but that's where he's got a real advantage. So if he's able to survive on the feet, kind of watch that chin straight back, avoid the power shots, I like Alex in this fight, honestly. I think he's going to be my pick.
It's not I thought about that. I almost went that direction. The only reason I didn't is because he's 1 takedown per fight, and I don't think he can hang on his feet. And he's only averaging 1 takedown per fight. And yes, he's won 5 in a row, but look at who he beat. It's not the highest level. That last win is great, but the wins before that
Chase
have not
Hooper, incredible win. Kevin Kroom. Another guy that's just tough as hell.
Short notice, Kevin Kroom. Okay.
Tough as hell.
Uh-huh.
Steven Peterson, Scott Peterson's brother. Yes, this is live. Why isn't everyone saying this? No, this is not live.
Who don't give him the time of day. $7,100 in DraftKings. I don't think he's worth it because I don't think he wins. But if you do, then he's absolutely worth it, and he may be a solid underdog play at $7,100. Sadiq Youssef at 91. I don't think he's worth it because He's going to have to knock out Alex Caceres to be worth that. And Alex has proven to be very tough, and you're not exactly just going to put him away. Yeah,
even if he gets dropped, he's one of those guys that will get dropped, but then on his butt and then either in the scramble or right back to his feet. He's not really a guy. I just had a flash of him just get absolutely flatlined because I was about to say he's not a guy that really just gets like flatline knocked out, but against Sadiq, that honestly might happen. But somebody mentioned inside the distance decision no action for Caceres plus 200. You can get the plus 3.5 for minus 110. It's interesting.
Inside the distance decision no action isn't terrible because he's durable, so he could probably survive to a decision. And if Youssef gasses because he's just chasing a knockout and is not there, it's possible Alex can catch him in a scramble, grab his neck or something like that. So that's not a terrible bet. What that bet basically means is if Alex Caceres wins inside the distance, knockout, submission, whatever it is, then you get paid at plus 300. Plus 300. But if Alex Caceres just gets pounded on, beat on, he's a bloody, disgusting mess, but it makes it to the judge's scorecard, you get a refund. The bet never happened. You get a refund. You're good. Your hands are clean. That may not be terrible because Alex Caceres, you know, he's very
you can get
durable
him just
guy.
Inside the distance for plus 475. That's the plus just inside the distance.
I'd rather have the insurance. Yeah, you lose some points. I'd rather have the insurance. Anyway, BetOnline is the only book that offers that. Go to weonpicks.com/bets. We have 5 partners. BetOnline is one of those partners. If you jump into any one of those and make a deposit, let us know and we will send you $50 as a thank you for supporting us and our partners.
Here's how I'm playing that one. I had my hand raised. I know you looked at me. You didn't call on me. That's fine. Alex Caceres, round 1, round 2, round 3 submission. You can get plus 2,500, plus 2,800, plus 3,300 odds. I'm gonna dabble on each one of those. That's crazy.
Well, I guess we'll find out on Friday with our best bets.
You heard it here first.
Next up, at UFC Vegas 50, we have the co-main event of the evening. We have Marlon Moraes taking on Yadong Song. Marlon Moraes is 23-9. He's only 1-4 in his last 5. He's coming off a ground and pound loss to Merab Dvalishvili. Song Yadong or Yadong Song is 18-5 overall. He's 3-1-1, coming off the knockout win over Julio Arce a few months ago. Marlon Moraes is an absolute savage. I told this story last time I broke him down, but I manage professional fighters. I have for 15 years. And in 2011, I was managing a young guy from American Top Team, got him a fight in the XFC. That fight fell through. So then they said, hey, we got this guy, Marlon Moraes. Will you fight him? We said, sure. Marlon Moraes beat him.
It was me. It was me. You can say it was me.
Yeah. Wrong complexion. Marlon Moraes beat him handily, and that kicked off an incredible 5-year unbeaten streak where Marlon just set the world on fire. He's a phenomenal striker. He's got really heavy kicks. When he's on, he looks unbeatable. The problem is that people figured out that if you pressure Marlon Moraes and you back him up, he can end up a step behind. He puts so much power into everything that he sort of needs to plant when he throws, and he ends up literally 1 second behind. That's how Rob Font outboxed him. As soon as Marlon Moraes would plant, Rob was like, bang, bang, and would just touch him up because Marlon was planting, looking for power. And that's how Merab was just taking him down over and over because he would plant to throw a kick, plant to throw a big punch, and Merab was like, whoop, and just dropped under there and took a shot. But he is incredible. Song Yadong, he's very young. He's only 24 years old, but he's a good technical striker who moves really well. He's fast, he hits hard, and he's athletic, but he is hittable at 4 significant strikes absorbed per minute. He throws everything with power, but that does leave him open for takedowns. He has okay submission defense, but he's very good at creating space and getting back to his feet. He does like to dictate the pace, but doing that against another high-level striker like Moraes may be tricky. And as it sits now, Song Yadong is, you see, minus 240 here. Some books he's almost at minus 300. And I think it's a little disrespectful to Marlon Moraes. I get it. He's only 1-4 in his last 5, but his losses were 2. Merab Dvalishvili, who's just savage wrestler. Rob Font, phenomenal boxer. Corey Sandhagen just fought for a title. Some people think he won it. And Henry Cejudo, who was the champion. I think all of those people also beat Song Yadong. he would also be 1-4 in his last 5, and he may be 0-5 in his last 5 because that one win was against Jose Aldo. So Marlon Moraes beat Jose Aldo a little over 2 years ago, and he can chop up Yadong's legs, really make something happen. My head and my heart are disagreeing here. My head is saying that Marlon Moraes actually needs to just come forward, throw a beating out there, and just really make a statement, and Marlon Moraes can do it because he's that talented. My heart is, sorry, that's my heart. My head is saying Song Yadong is just younger.
What's your
He's got a
stomach
chin.
saying?
It's saying I shouldn't have made tacos for dinner and then sat in front of a computer for 2 hours talking to people about fights is what that's saying. But Song Yadong, so my heart's with Marlon Moraes. My head is with Song Yadong. He's a good striker. He's got some decent power. He's got a good chin. And if he can survive the first round, I think he can get it done. Yadong's the pick, but I love Marlon Moraes. I'm going to figure out something to do here with him. But what are your thoughts?
Yadong should be on Yadong. Listen, Marlon Moraes is, because you said, what does my heart do? What's my, I say your dong should be on Yadong. You know what I mean? So Marlon Moraes is 0-5 in his last 5 fights. Let's get that straight. He lost to Jose Aldo. Everyone knows that he lost that fight. I don't know why they gave him that decision. But I kind of feel bad for him. That last fight against Merab, it was like, what the hell is he supposed to do, right? He had Merab literally out on his feet for like 2 straight minutes. I mean, Marlon is doing everything you're supposed to do to be able to stop that fight, and Merab is able to just kind of somehow survive. And then, obviously, Marlon, already with gas tank issues, absolutely unloaded the tank and just had nothing left. I don't blame him for that loss. That's a tough loss to take because he did look so good, and he was able to win the battle that he was supposed to. He did everything he was supposed to do, and then somehow ended up losing the fight because he get gas and the fight wasn't stopped. So with that said, I just cannot trust Marlon Moraes. I just can't trust his chin. I can't trust his cardio. He is a very, very skilled individual, and he's going to be there in the early rounds, right? In the early exchanges, there's going to be a few exchanges where Marlon Moraes is definitely going to win those exchanges. He's a very, very good striker. But I agree, Yadong is going to have the speed advantage. I think he's going to have the precision. He's going to have a little bit of a grappling advantage if he wants to use it. Or it's like wrestling in general, because Marlon Moraes is good at jiu-jitsu, but wrestling, if he needs to use it, I think his defense is going to be better, and I think his cardio is going to be better, and I just think that this was not a tailor-made matchup, but I think this is going to really open up some eyes to people on Song Yadong. I know he is a favorite. He is like a 2-1 favorite, whatever he is, but I think people are going to be really, really impressed with the performance that Song Yadong puts on Marlon Moraes. And this is a great name, the co-main event, to show off somebody like Song Yadong. Because, I mean, he did get, the shit beat out of him by Kyler Phillips, lock of the week. But, I had to bring it up. But Song Yadong is a real deal, and he's going to be in this division. He's going to be a top guy very, very soon.
And it was actually the wrestling from Kyler Phillips that got that done. And Marlon Moraes can wrestle. He can also grapple. I mean,
he can grapple.
He's very good. And he's only 33. You would actually think he was 38. But he's been in wars. He's a striker, and they tend to age a little faster. But, I'm really looking forward to it. $7,000, honestly, if he wins, he will definitely be in what is probably an optimal DraftKings lineup, because if he wins, it's first round knockout, and he's scoring big time points. Because you brought up a good point with the Merab fight. Merab's a savage wrestler, and that's how he won that fight. But Marlon almost pulled up a massive upset in that fight and had everybody on pins and needles for a few minutes there. And if the ref stopped it, nobody would have been.
No. It was literally like a few minutes. It wasn't like one of those like, oh, I'm just going to try and finish him right here. He's like chasing him around the cage. Just Merab is like stumbling and falling and spinning, getting off takedowns, beating him. He'd get up and fall again. It was crazy.
It was because I bet on Merab, so I remember being incredibly stressed watching that whole thing happen. So anyway, Marlon Moraes. It could be value at $7,000, but I think he's first round or scores no points whatsoever. So if you think he's going to get the knockout, then go ahead and go for it. $9,200, I'm not playing Song Yadong. No way. That's a lot of money. That's a lot of risk fighting somebody like Marlon Moraes. I'm not doing it. Are you spending that money?
It's a little risky given the talent of Marlon Moraes because he is a top guy.
Yeah, he does have a chin, though. He has a chin, which can help him here. But Marlon Moraes could just chop down that tree and light up those legs. And I think it's a more and more monkey knife fight play. I think it's a decision. I think Song Yadong wins a decision. But I think that, both these guys have some moments they go back and forth. So I'm a big more and more guy in this fight for sure.
Yeah, because even when Marlon gets tired, that dude has heart. He was exhausted against Marab and was still fighting for. That was another where they were like, he didn't want to stop the fight for Marlon's side either. And he was just getting beat on and was finding a way to kind of throw back. He is tough as hell even when he gets tired. So I think this is more and more for sure.
Yeah, no, I completely agree. And don't forget, guys, these Monkey Knife Fight lines move. If you're watching it live, hit it now. If you're watching it a few days later, the line might be different, but they move as the week goes on. So if you like a line, as soon as you see it, make sure you hit it because it moves with the money. WeWantPicks.com/MKF. Monkey Knife Fight is daily fantasy, super fun, pretty easy. You just look at the strike lines, you say more or less, and you can win some real money. It's a great time. Check it out. And also check out WeWantPicks.com/bets. Sign up with any one of our 5 betting partners. Make a deposit. Let me know after you do, and we send you $50 as a thank you. That's WeWantPicks.com/bets. And next up, at UFC Vegas 50, we have the main event of the evening. We've got Thiago Santos taking on Magomed Ankalaev. Yeah, because it's machete. Or sorry, it's sledgehammer. It's sledgehammer in Portuguese. Anyway, Thiago Santos is 22-9 overall, 2-3 in his last 5, and he's coming off that very underwhelming win over Johnny Walker. Magomed Ankalaev is 16-1 overall. He's 5-0 in his last 5. He hasn't lost since he was submitted by Paul Craig in 2018. This should be a striker versus striker main event, and it could be some fun. And at one point in his career, Thiago Santos was the hardest hitting guy in 2 divisions. And ever since that loss to John Jones, though, he does seem to have lost a little bit of that power. He does still have power, but he seemed to have lost. It's taken a little bit of an edge off, and he doesn't seem to be as mobile. And a lot of people think he beat John Jones in that fight, and he had 2 busted knees going into that and coming out of it. He's still fast as hell, though. He still has very real power, and he has absolute savage kicks. We watched him almost put Glover's lights out. What was that, last year and a half ago, with that very same power, but then he slowed down and blew his wad trying to knock Glover out. And then Glover just took him down, dominated from there. He beat Johnny Walker, but he did not look good at all. He only landed 44 strikes in 25 minutes. 44 strikes in a 25-minute fight against Johnny Walker, who's not looking to shoot takedowns. That was an embarrassing fight for both of those guys. He seemed slow. He seemed labored. It was a boring fight. But let's not also forget that Thiago Santos is a BJJ black belt, and he may be aware enough to use it in this fight because Magomed Ankalaev is a very good kickboxer. He's long, he uses range well, and he has his own devastating kicks. He will throw kicks right up the middle, and I love using this reference, like how Anderson Silva knocked out Vitor Belfort in that fight. He has power in both of his hands and his feet, and he's very versatile. If he gets in trouble striking, he does have a wrestling backup plan, and he averages more than 1 takedown per fight. He took down Ozdemir in his last fight and Nikita Krylov 3 times in the fight before that. And if this was Thiago Santos from 2018 who knocked out Jan Blachowicz, I'd be all over him, especially with a BJJ black belt as a backup. But he's 38. He's really starting to slow down. Ankalaev is probably just going to be way too much here. I have him winning. I think he does it with forward pressure, heavy kicks, manages range, and just constantly threatens that takedown to really get Thiago Santos thinking. I'm not sure we're going to see a stoppage here because Thiago Santos is a durable guy, unless you get him exhausted and grapple with him. But I do think this is going to be a pretty one-sided fight. I don't have a bet yet here, but Ankalaev is honestly a pretty safe parlay piece. I mentioned some fights earlier in the night that I was very confident in. I will likely build a few parlays around Magomed Ankalaev. What do you think, Jakey boy?
Yeah, these odds have actually ballooned all the way to like a minus 575, which I think is pretty disrespectful for Thiago Santos and his abilities, because this is a guy that he still does carry power. It's not the crazy power he does have, but he's got enough power that if he hits you in the right spot, you're going to get knocked out. And being a guy that's came up to light heavyweight, he is a little bit quick. He's not going to be as fast as Ankalaev, but he is quicker than most people think, even with the 2 busted knees. If this was just a straight, if Ankalaev did not have the wrestling in his back pocket, and I knew that this was going to be a straight kickboxing match, Yeah, I put Thiago at like a plus 150 or something. I think it'd be a lot closer and just a striking battle. I think he'd still be the underdog. I think Ankalaev is a little bit more dynamic in his strikes, but Thiago Santos is a guy that's been there with champions and looked great against them. And obviously he's changed. He's gotten a little bit older. But that experience, I think, is going to be able to go. I agree. I think that this could be a long fight for Ankalaev. And who knows what could happen in the 4th or 5th round if people's cardios are prepared for that. So I think Ankalaev is definitely the play. I think he's going to rely on his wrestling more than people think. Just to be able to get takedowns and control to win rounds, because I don't think he's putting Thiago Santos away as easily as people think as well. So at minus 575, it should be a first or second round knockout. I don't see it, but he definitely is a play in this matchup.
Yeah, I mean, I do see it. Obviously, it's a little different if we go back to last week. Umar Nurmagomedov was minus 800, basically a guarantee to win that fight. I think it's a little easier to guarantee or be as close to it. It's a fist fight. Nothing's a guarantee, but it's a little easier when we're talking about a wrestler than a striker, because a striker's got to be on point the whole time. But I do think that Magomed will be worth it. I expect his price to balloon up. Somebody in the live chat said it's at minus 750. That is a lot. But I don't think he's minus 750 especially not on all the books.
I see minus 600 is the most I see.
Yeah, minus 750 is a lot. Minus 650 is a lot as well, or minus 600 is a lot as well. But you take him, you take two more good-sized favorites, and you'll end up with plus money. So I'm pretty confident in this. $9,600, you hate spending that much money, but I will have him in my DraftKings lineup because I mentioned this all night. There's only a few fighters that I'm almost positive are going to win, and he is one of them. And it's a tricky card, and I gotta try to get those guaranteed wins. So $9,600 in DraftKings, I will probably spend that. What do you think?
Yeah, I think you have to. I think it's, I think especially as you mentioned earlier, because it would be kind of him or Miranda, but you mentioned Gillian Robertson is a better value than Miranda. So you'd probably play Ankalaev and Miranda Ankalaev and Gillian instead of Miranda and someone.
Yeah, and you know, like I said, there's not a ton of people that I'm 100% positive are going to win on this fight card. It's a tricky card, but Ankalaev is one of those guys that I'm pretty sure of. 61 strikes to 96 strikes. I'll have to dig in to Ankalaev a little more to see how much he actually lands in some of his decision wins. I do think this is a decision. What do you think about this strike line?
Probably more.
Yeah, I mean, I'll have to look at it. Thiago Santos
fight is favored to go. I'll tell you, the round line is 3.5, but does it go the distance? It's only a plus 115, so they expect it to go pretty far.
Well, and let's not forget though that Thiago Santos just went the distance and only landed 44 strikes, 44 in a fight that he won. So
it'll be a little bit different because that was more on Johnny Walker, I think, because Thiago's a guy that wants to. He's not a come forward guy anymore. Yeah, and Johnny was being weird in that fight with the counter coaching, and what a mess that turned into.
Yeah, poor Johnny Walker. Either way, guys, thank you so much for the watch. Go to wewantpicks.com/bets. Sign up with any one of our 5 betting partners. Make a deposit. Let us know after you do. We send you $50. It is literally that easy. If you go to wewantpicks.com, you will literally see the claim your free money here form. You fill it out. I'll reply to you saying received. I'll verify your account and I'll get you paid. It's that easy. wewantpicks.com/bets. You guys are awesome in the live chat right now. Make sure you go to our free Discord. Everything we do here is 100% free. Go to the Discord, keep the conversation going, argue with each other there, and we will see you on Friday for all of our final breakdowns, picks, and everything else. We'll see you then.